life I've barely spoken. Your words have been so broken. I've been under your hypnosis. Why did I sip that potion? I'm so done with holy ghosting. My birth, it is an omen. Lay me down up in the ocean until you see no motion. Right now I can barely focus. I'm showing no emotion. On your knees, show your devotion. My skin is black but golden. I'm not here for bragging, boasting. Ain't lying, I've been chosen. Mind is burning, heart's exploding. This is my magnum opus. Are you with me now? Said, are you with me now? Ain't felt this good in a while. They want us to simmer down. Can you hear me now? Am I going in and out? I stop and just look around to see if you're with me now. Tell me, are you with me now? Ready to put it down. Start at the bottom, already forgot them, but they won't forgive me now. You really ain't ready now. You haters just in the crowd, but still I just look around. Are you with me now? Are you with me? Step in the fire, get ready to take it higher. Real coming out your amplifier. Y'all want every black man to be rich and proud. Why these weapons up and turn into shy, huh? Cell phone became your brother. Internet replaced your mother. You leaving homies on red. It's no wonder all your friends dead. Jealousy was a centerpiece, so my best friends turned to enemies. Sabotage my identity. Why they wanna treat me like a Kennedy? They wanna affect the legacy. Protect the heart, I cut off the extremities. I'll never be another piece in your recipe for social supremacy. Are you with me now? Said, are you with me now? Ain't felt this good in a while. They want us to simmer down. Can you hear me now? Am I going in and out? I stop and just look around to see if you're with me now. Tell me, are you with me now? Ready to put it down. Start at the bottom, already forgot them, but they won't forgive me now. You really ain't ready now. You haters just in the crowd, but till I just look around. Are you with me now? Are you with me now? Are you with me now? Said, are you with me now? Ain't felt this good in a while. They want us to simmer down. Can you hear me now? Am I going in and out? I stop and just look around to see if you're with me now. Tell me, are you with me now? Ready to put it down. Start at the bottom, already forgot them, but they won't forgive me now. You really ain't ready now. You haters just in the crowd, but still I just look around. Are you with me now? Are you with me now? Whoa. I feel it coming now. It's too late to shut it down. I'm waiting about now. Burning the valley down. I don't know where my mind is. Don't even know what time it is. Somebody stop the virus. I don't think I survived this. I feel it coming now. It's too late to shut it down. Over the mountain now, burning the valley down. I don't know where my mind is. Don't even know what time is. Somebody stop the virus. Room full of bodies, but nothing but silence. Yeah, I'm quiet, but f*** all that shyness. Go crazy, turn this bitch into an asylum. You fly, but we ain't looking for pilots. I never bow down to a tyrant, His Highness. Even Jack said, f*** all them giants. What goes up comes down, man, that's basic science. Look at my iris and you'll see the fines. I'd rather not get involved with you. What's the problem, man? I'll solve all you sign. How you find when your time up? How you climb when your line stuck? Barbershop getting lined up. Yeah, your hair good, but your mind super clear. Uber everywhere. This sound like Superman is here. Are you with me now? Said, are you with me now? Ain't felt this good in a while. They want us to simmer down. Can you hear me now? Am I going in and out? I stop and just look around to see if you're with me now. Tell me, are you with me now? Ready to put it down. Start at the bottom, already forgot them, but they won't forgive me now. You really ain't ready now. You haters just in the crowd, but still I just look around. Are you with me now? Are you with me now?
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. Happy Thursday. I am your host here, and I am joined via Zoom by dear friend. We were changing him from Apostle 2024 to just actor, comedian, and author. We're still voting for governor of the state of Canada, Brad Witbeck, and awaiting the arrival.
I'll replace Trudeau.
Yes,
I'm in.
Awaiting the you cross your legs better than he does.
My gosh!
Did you see that meme with Justin Trudeau? And
I don't think I ever have, actually.
Oh, just go look up Justin Trudeau crossed legs, and it was savage. It was really funny. So anyway, we're welcoming Brad via Zoom to the Ward Radio Wigwam and awaiting the arrival of Brittany the Shadow. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of things today. Got a little bit of an Ask Me Anything about the wildfires. A lot of people have been sending their condolences, their concerns, questions about how they can help and so on and so forth with the tragedy of the ongoing Southern California wildfires, specifically around Los Angeles. And yeah, it's up close. It's just as crazy as it looks in the news. But there are ways you can help. Specific church help is going to be determined pretty much once they let people start helping. A lot of people have asked me, like, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? If you actually go, the LA Temple's had a couple of really cool links, and the Bishop storehouses are going crazy right now, trying to help where they can for the people that they can. But basically, National Guard is keeping anybody out because they're dealing looters, so on and so forth. So within a couple of days, once these winds die down and containment begins to be something that is reported on instead of the lack thereof, we'll let you guys know. And if you are so inclined, you can help. Also, before we start, Brad, I do have to say, my life has been, I'm going to take this off because I don't like it when I give free commercials for people, but Poppy drinks, have you had them, bro?
Dude, they're really good. They're really good.
I feel so much better. What do they do to you, dog?
Oh, they're just soda that tastes really good and then also doesn't make you feel gross afterward.
Like that's
good.
The thing.
Good stuff.
Like, yeah. I feel so much better. Whatever this prebiotic stuff, I hope it's not some compound that they figured out is just like one hydrocarbon away from crack, you know, and then like 10 years from now, it's like Ozempic and we found out that it took 10 years off your life or whatever. But
well, it's mostly fiber, right? In that one?
There is a lot of fiber, but only 10 grams of sugar, but it's got enough taste. It's not just like watered down. Anyway, I'm just giving a shout out. If any of you guys want a soda that actually hits the spot, but simultaneously doesn't make you feel like crap, actually feel good, it's got prebiotics in it, the whole 9 yards, shout out to Poppy. So now that that's over, I can take this off the screen. I just remember thinking, you know what? A friend in my ward recommended Poppy to me when I was moaning and groaning about, you know, not being as energetic as I used to. And he said, hey, gut health this, gut health that, try a Poppy. And I tried it while we were playing the card game version of Monopoly, and I felt better afterwards, like 2 or 3 hours afterwards. And I thought, you know, I'm giving it a try. And I'm going to tell my audience about this, dang it. So there, Poppy.
It's just expensive.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I got this off the Powerwall at grocery outlet for 79 cents, and I bought $50 worth because usually they're like $4.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, it's pretty savage.
I was thinking they're expensive at like, I think they're like $2, $2.50 out here in Utah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you got to double everything when you come to California. So, anyway, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. It's a little bit of a hangout stream, and we're just going to be talking a little bit about the wildfires, answering a lot of the questions you guys have, and then reacting a little bit to American Primeval, which seems to be the talk of the town, the topic du jour this week. So, anyway, we're going to dive right in. Brad, today, could you be the keeper of the chats?
I got you.
By chance, you got me? Yeah, and I got the new three screens set up though, so I can be just like checking in on everything all at once. So anyway,
nice.
We're gonna have a lot of fun. It's gonna be a short stream, a little hangout stream on a Thursday night, and hopefully, if you guys got any questions and it's relevant to the conversation, then we'll just read it out. We'll read it out loud and have a fun time just hanging out here. So anyway. Which we start with? Brad, you can choose. I just realized something also as I was about to ask this. Canadians always get represented so well in American cinema. You know,
do they?
like, yeah, I just realized, like, I was talking with Ben Hancock, the guy that runs for All the Saints. Mm-hmm. And when I heard his accent, the first thing I said was, "You're welcome, bro." He's like, "What do you mean?" And I said, American cinema and Hollywood has made it so that you are always the good guy. There's never a movie when you hear somebody with your accent where he's not represented as smart, fast, athletic, good.
Well,
unless
that's
there's
because It's the least threatening accent in history. Can you imagine like some Canadian like swiveling around with a cat in his lap and being like, "Oh, we're gonna demand $8 billion from y'all, eh?" Like it doesn't work. You cannot be threatened by a Canadian accent.
Do you think it's that? Yeah, so the English accent, Hollywood always makes it sound good. There's never a bad Englishman unless there's a good Englishman chasing him down. You think the Canadian accent, because it's so affable and non-confrontational, you think that's why you guys have such a good rap?
Oh yeah, eh? Can you imagine someone threatening you at gunpoint like this? Just be like, "Hey, give me all your money, bro." Like that's not gonna happen.
And you simultaneously hear these stories of these BA Canadian like World War I guys that cleared an entire trench of Germans, and the world's longest sniper shot was done by a Canadian. Yeah, what was he doing? He's like, "Hey there, don't you move 3 clicks north."
Oh
Could have
no.
been. You know, just
Oh no.
could you imagine them celebrating
hey.
just like, yeah.
We got a solid we gotta put 10 W's in the chat. Mary Lou Howarth just threw down 10 Ward Radio memberships gifting to everybody. So please welcome all 10 of these people to the Ward Radio Wigwam with a W times
W
10
in the chat. Okay.
Oh, she says she doesn't speak like that, and that's how Canadians shouldn't speak. Honestly, most Canadians don't speak that way. I've met some Canadians that do, but the vast majority don't talk that way. In fact, they sound an awful lot like Utah accent, maybe Montana. Like, not it's like less extreme than Wisconsin.
Really?
Yeah, for most of the Canadians I know.
Oh, interesting. So here's one question. This is totally not what we're here for, but hey, this is a hangout stream. We're just having fun today, you know. So the Canadian accent isn't actually truly Canadian. Like not all Canadians sound that way.
Mm-hmm.
Is it regional to a certain place, or is it like in a class of Canadian society that speaks that way? Just like, you know, in England, there's the Cockney accent, which can be spoken in different geographical locations, but more by the same class, whereas the more erudite kind of nose upward accent is spoken by the wealthy. How is that?
There's definitely like different regional accents in Canada.
Okay.
That one, the particular like the moose off of Brother Barry, those ones, that one's like Strange Brew. That's like a Canadian comedian show that really popularized that accent. And it's almost would could I say that's a Canadian hick accent basically? Like
Really?
kind of like an yeah, almost. I that's kind of how I would characterize it. But then or maybe that's the Newfies. There's a Newfoundland accent that I can't even do. And then
Really?
there's the Quebecois accent, which is like a duck trying to speak French, maybe? Is that? I don't know how to like describe
Do you
it. I
guys
can't
have
do that
like
one
your
either.
own like Creole, like where, you know, indigenous languages mixed with like French, mixed with English, spoken in a very specific kind of more rural place or anything like that?
Oh, I'm sure there's some up there. None that I'm aware of. Like for instance, the Quebecois, they're effectively like imagine Texas
Okay,
had
yeah.
really committed to speaking English the way that it was meant to be, and so they still spoke like Shakespearean English.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and they insisted that that's the way it's supposed to be spoken, even though like if you went back to England, they're like, no, that's not right. Like they've like somehow developed like a pirate accent that doesn't fit what England knew, like people in England actually speak. Because French people, they don't think that the Canadian Quebecois accent is correct, right? Like, and so they
Really?
think, yeah, they think the Quebec guys speak weird, but they're also trying to secede, basically
Really?
every so often, just like Texas, right? Where Texas, well, not like Texas is trying to, but Texas has the ability to like leave the nation if they wanted to, right? So Quebec, relatively often, like they had a vote relatively recently where it was super close that they were just trying to leave the rest of Canada.
Really? Wow. So are they like people that want to annex? You know how in Oregon there's those people that want to leave Washington and Oregon and become part of Idaho and call themselves the Greater Idaho Area and actually made it into the state assembly in Washington? Did you see that? Oh, yeah, no, like, oh my gosh, yeah, the Greater Idaho movement is legit. They're beyond like change.org status. Like, yeah, it's so Greater Idaho Secession. Oh, I'm totally spelling secession wrong. But Greater Idaho Secession, yeah, it's called the Greater Idaho Movement. Now they even have their own Wikipedia page. I'm throwing it up on the screen so everybody can see it. But,
see, now that's a part of Washington trying to secede to either become part of Idaho or still stay a state, right? Quebec wants to leave Canada.
Well, do they want to join Montana though, or
no,
not Montana? But
they've
like,
got no plan. It's like
they
just want to be their own country.
Okay,
at least that's my understanding of it.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I fully support it. Whatever they choose to do, and you know, I can't think like we just got to spice it up in Canada a little bit. And we need some good news coming out of there. Nothing's happened since that trucker blitz like 4 years ago where they like froze all the assets of the truckers.
You didn't count it as good news when Trudeau announced he was resigning?
Oh, that's just a guy quitting. Although the guy that runs your Conservatives, he's a savage. I saw him. Yeah, dude. He is
His
nuts.
interview with the reporter where he's just eating an apple is fantastic.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And I was gonna say Trump's tweet today was freaking hilarious too, where he just savaged everybody that he's not gonna hire. That was pretty epic too, kind of in the same, like, just while eating an apple and saying what you think. It's awesome. So anyway, really fast, what were your thoughts? What do you want to do first, Wildfires or American Primeval, my man? What were your thoughts on American Primeval?
I saw Brittany in the chat say she'll be there in 10. Do we want to
she's
wait
here.
for her for the...
No, she's hanging out.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, do we want to... I'm happy either way.
Yeah, no, jump right, Leo. Let's get American Primeval out of the way, just so we could do it. You know what I'm saying?
Do you want to... Okay, so how
you
do
go
you want to
first.
approach this?
You go first.
Start
you
with
go
the
first.
stuff?
Just tell me your point blank what you thought, because you're our most charitable person, and just tell me what you thought, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, so for our audience, anybody who has not heard of American Primeval, it is a Western show that is coming out on Netflix. It's a series, 6-episode series, I think, that is taking place in like the frontier where you're dealing with settlers and mountain men like Jim Bridger, and then Native Americans and the Mormons. And I just want everyone to like put a guess in the chat who they decided to make the main villains of this show. Just take a wild guess.
Brigham Young for 500.
Ding ding ding! Brittany wins.
I'm so smart.
Now, the second closest thing is saturation. That would be the second villain of the series. I don't think I've watched something so washed out in a very long time. Like, it fits the vibe. I get why they did it. It's 100%. It's like when you need to make a country Mexico, you just make it sepia, right? Like, you see that a lot in movies, right? They did that here, where like it's so desaturated all the time. That is the secondary villain of American Primeval.
I heard that the director, I shouldn't say I heard, I read an article, the director specifically chose to have no bird track added into the soundtrack, no bird song. So you don't hear a single bird in the entire production, apparently, and that helps give it.
Did we kill the birds too?
No.
Oh.
We were not blamed for the birds, though. I'm surprised there was not a mention of climate change. Interestingly enough, Matt Walsh said that he liked it for its lack of woke themes. And so I was like, all right. You know what I'm saying? But so you thought now.
Well, here's the deal. So it pitches itself as based on historical events, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe you should pull this up in the Discord.
I will.
You have Lindsay Hansen Park was a historical consultant on this. And she was also a historical consultant on another show that was very, very positive about us, Under the Banner of Heaven. And so here we are with another episodic series that she has been a consultant on, in which it kind of seems like the underlying thesis is members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or Mormons are violent psychopaths.
Have
So,
you confirmed she was a cultural consultant on this one too? Because I looked that up specifically, and
yeah.
I found the information on the cultural consultant for the American Indians, who I guess wasn't asked about that first scene.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That was a great opener. You know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
like, was she indeed? Was she indeed a consultant for this? Like she claimed that or was credited?
I'm pretty sure she was. I saw something where she had like mentioned going off of social media for a while because of her work on it. In the Discord, I have a screenshot of something she posted about
Okay,
this.
cool. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. So here it is right here, Lindsay Hatton Park. She says it's fiction, but an imagined. Wow, this is a big post right here. So I'm gonna make that smaller. So it's fiction, but an imagined scenario based on a Mormon universe. So it's definitely historical fiction because it's based on real characters placed in plausible scenarios. Plausible scenarios. Yes, literally doing nothing but murdering everybody from Nebraska to California. Yeah, that's a plausible scenario. All right, okay.
Mhm.
But the scenarios aren't historically accurate, even though the characters are. Does that make sense? Well, actually, no, that doesn't make sense because
Not really.
yeah, like they had people that were 50 years out of place there. It's like having Abraham Lincoln in the same building with Elvis and calling it historical fiction. You're like, no, that can't be. But anyway, it's definitely not an accurate history of. Yeah, she says it's definitely not an accurate history of anything. For example, Jim Bridger is around at a time he wasn't actually around, and there are skirmishes that never actually occurred. Okay. Continue.
Which is, I think, to put it lightly, skirmishes that never actually happened is definitely one way of putting it. And I will say, my first tip that this wasn't going to be historically accurate was when the Mormons did not offer cookies before resorting to violence.
I had the same thought, Brad. Same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was like, no way.
Like,
There's no way that this is real.
dude, I don't know what to think of this yet, to be honest with you. I'm still formulating a lot of my opinions, and I vacillate. I vacillate between chill out. We always get misrepresented. Just sit. All film is exploitation. Nobody complains when, Asian martial artists are misrepresented and the ninjas are historically inaccurate in a Quentin Tarantino film, because the whole thing is meant to be stylized violence, and it's like, just chill out, sit back and enjoy yourself. And as a comedian, I know that somebody always has to be the brunt of the joke somewhere. So like, it's going to be you every once in a while. Just deal with it. I will say I can see why members of our church have grown weary. Yeah.
What are the last 5 series put out about LDS people?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I was just about to say I can totally see why the average member of the church has grown weary, because in my adult lifetime, we've never really had a positive representation. But in this one, there's part of me that was, especially after I watched the first episode, which is the episode most people watch and then don't continue. Only the diehards go past the first episode. My impression after the end of the first episode was, okay, there was a couple of lines that made the Mormons look like religious zealots and maybe a little bit creepy. But I actually think the people that were misrepresented the hardest were the American Indians.
When you say a little bit creepy, do you mean like Brigham Young as the Penguin wasn't super creepy to you? Like,
he looked like Joaquin Phoenix in the Joker. Did you notice that?
A little bit, yeah. I think, who knows? Maybe there was a little bit.
Dude,
of
I
inspiration
tried
there,
taking screenshots. I'm just gonna put up the IMDb screenshots that they got approved from Netflix, because let me tell you, the new upgrades of OBS won't even let you take screenshots of Netflix. But like, they straight up made homeboy Brigham Young look like, in this picture, maybe not so much, but there were moments where I literally thought it was like Joaquin Phoenix in the Joker.
Yeah.
Like that was the vibe that I was getting.
A little emaciated, just kind of.
Yeah, so part of me, I did a documentary called King Cohen once about the life of Larry Cohen, who's considered king of the B movies. It had Martin Scorsese and J.J. Abrams in it, and a lot of these modern directors who really looked up to him in the 80s and the 90s as kind of, just the king of B movies. And anybody that loved movies back then knew who he was, and oftentimes paid homage to him in their films or emulated him in one way or another, right? So we did this great little documentary where he interviewed him before he died. He was much older by this time, and he said in a very specific time in the documentary, he said, "I don't know why people call my films black exploitation," because he was the first to pioneer. He's called the Martin Luther King of filmmaking because he pioneered black films, for lack of a better term, in the late 60s and early 70s. He made Hell Up in Harlem, Black Caesar, a bunch of these first really cool crossover films. He made Bone, which was, I believe, I can't remember, but it was some kind of milestone in American cinema. And it had Yaphet Kotto in it, who's considered the first black man in space, that was also one of the astronauts in Alien, or one of the workers in the spaceship in Alien, and so on and so forth. There was a moment in the documentary, anyway, where he said, "I don't know why people call my film black exploitation. Hell Up in Harlem was no different than James Cagney in I can't remember the name of the movie he made but he's like, it was just like James Cagney." And then he named the movie, and he says, "All film is exploitation. What's wrong with some black actors getting a job for once?" You know? And he was always very defensive of his films, and he brought up a good point. Like, all film is exploitation. So I look at this and I think, okay, well, they want to make a violent Western. America is clamoring for one. What stereotypes can you throw out there? There was only
and also, part of their marketing that appears to be actively working is, hey, if we make it the Mormons, they're going to talk about it, right?
Well, yeah, so that's where the other side of me comes in, where I'm like, okay, Mormons are going to have a moan, like some of the more zealous and the historically aware ones were. It was well crafted enough that I think it will be popular. It was well done enough that it'll be popular.
Isn't it like number 2 in the world on Netflix right now?
It was number 1 for a while. It's down to number 2 right now.
Yeah. I think that's going to
came out on the 9th and was number 1, I think, for, was it a full week? It was number 1 for a good while.
Yeah, I think that's going to dwindle pretty quickly, just because I don't see what its rewatchability is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what would bring somebody back to it, but it's going to make its money back, and it's going to recycle some old tropes in the zeitgeist. And then there's part of me that doesn't like that part, where it's just like, gosh, man, can't we get a break? And how is it? And also, what are we doing to fix this? Like, who is employed? Like, how, if Lindsay Hansen Park is consistently Hollywood's cultural consultant, and they can get off the hook from a lawsuit or a complaint by saying, well, we hired the Mormon cultural consulting firm, it's, how is there not? I just feel like, how are there not, with all that with everything the church office building does, with how giant our PR departments are, with how many people are on the freaking church payroll, how is there not somebody calling around every production company saying, hey, you know what? If you want a cultural consultant, we actually have faithful historians who are active in our church. We see that you've used ex-Mormon, anti-Mormon ones, and there's no question Lindsay Hansen Park is an anti-Mormon. I
mean, look at the body of her work. I think it kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's like keep going.
What are you doing, Lindsay? I don't understand. Like, I do not understand how you could have a goal of not presenting Mormons as violent psychos, right? When this is the stuff that comes out of what you've consulted on. So I don't get it. I will say, there's 2 things I want to go over. Number 1, do we want to get into let's do some of the screenshots there.
Okay.
Because I think that I totally understand what you're saying, Cardon. I get that there's the economic side of filmmaking, that you're just everyone's gonna be exploited at some point, and it's gonna be our turn sometimes. It's a little bit weird that it's been our turn 5 times in a row recently, but hey, like,
well, you're right.
You win some, you lose some.
You're right.
Like,
yeah.
But let's take a look at some of the screenshots of people's reaction to American Primeval, and let's maybe ask ourselves if this is the kind of stuff that is what we want to be putting out into the world, right?
Okay, so
I get what you're saying. People want like a violent Western out there. Um, is this what we want people to be thinking after watching said violent Western, right?
yeah, read them out. Read them out. I got them up.
I can't see him.
Oh, Kenzie Parnell.
I'm gonna need you to.
Yeah,
pull
sorry,
up and-
Kenzie Parnell.
No, you're good.
Kenzie Parnell says American Primeval on Netflix built up hatred for Mormons I didn't even know I had. Parentheses, not all of them, obviously. Well, thank you for
Yeah,
qualifying
obviously.
that.
What does that mean?
Yeah. The next one we got here is Dustin Genereux, who says American Primeval on Netflix has taught me that Mormons massacred their own dressed as Indians to scare people from starting a war. Brigham Young was extremely pro-slavery. Mormons manipulated their own religion to control their members. Seems like a solid religion. Oof. Rough.
Yeah, like, oh, okay. So they're taking this historical fiction that you're putting out, and this is the conclusion that they're coming to. Is this what you wanted people to think? That's what I want to ask Lindsay Hansen Park. Like, is this the takeaway you wanted people to have? If not, what was the takeaway you wanted people to have?
Well, also,
Like,
I
go
question,
ahead.
is this, I doubt this is Lindsay Hansen Park's
Not
influence.
in totality, right? Like she's a consultant. It's not completely at her feet.
Yeah,
And I'm sure there's some level of the director's going to do whatever they want to do anyway, right?
Yeah. I was going to say the consultants are an excuse to put in the heinous thing. So when people complain, you can say, well, we hired a consultant. They read the script. It's like the safety guy. You know how Tom Hanks like fires a safety guy whenever the safety guy tells him like, you can't do that stunt. And so, oh yeah.
Yeah. But at what point do you, as Lindsay Hansen Park, say, hey, the way that we're representing Mormons here is actually going to be very, very negative. This is going to make people think that it's a violent, hateful cult, right?
Yeah.
And I'm certain I can already see the comments in the comment section where people are going to be like, it is a hateful, violent cult, right? And they're going to feel justified because of movies like this, right? It's frustrating to me. Because I get the economics of it. I get the storytelling reasons behind it, right? It's way easier to tell a good story when you have a solid villain. Just, if you're going to make it the Mormons, let's maybe make it less about their doctrine and evil Brigham Young taking all these crazy cultists out there and just being evil for evil's sake, right? Like I don't know. The way that they portrayed this in the first episode, they have the Fancher Party, right? Which is the company that is killed in the Mountain Meadows Massacre.
Yeah.
They 100% portray this as by the order of Brigham Young, we're coming in to kill you guys. There is historical evidence that Brigham Young actively told the Iron County militia in southern Utah not to bother the Fancher Party. He actively was sending a rider to tell them not to attack these people, right? When you actually look into the history of it, it seems to me pretty obvious that it was people who were scared of the United States military that was marching on their people at that time. They were worried. They were scared. They didn't know what to do. They freaked out and they made a horrific mistake in attacking the people of the Fancher train. But if you want to get an idea of what happened and why the Mountain Meadows Massacre happened, you're not going to get it from American Primeval. The Mountain Meadows Massacre was a horrifying event. But then to use that as your basis for this entire thing and make it look like, oh, hey, yeah, this is just the Mormons being like evil cultists out in the West, right? I don't like it.
Yeah, it's weird that the people that jumped to the Mountain Meadows Massacre kind of remind me of all the groypers that are constantly trying to quote U.S. Liberty attack as like a justification for their anti-Semitism. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're ever in online forums and, you're discussing, like somebody seems to be veering really far away from a criticism of Israel to like their mere existence is a problem. And you're just like, all right, I don't know if I don't know if I want to continue this convo anymore. Yeah, well, what about the USS Liberty? And it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
because like the history of this stuff is complex and it's really, really sad. You have a bunch of stuff with like the Hans Mill massacre that happened to the Saints, driving them out of Missouri. And then you have like the Saints arriving in Utah. I think people forget those Saints who were down there, they had experienced the Hans Mill massacre. Like they were there for those sorts of things. They saw their people be driven out of the United States. And I think they almost put in a line or two to try to allude to that, which I did appreciate in that first episode. But what I've heard is that it continues to get worse in its representation of the Mormons as it goes further. Like to the point that I've heard John DeLynn said that this felt like anti-Mormon material, right?
I will tell you right now, I wondered, like some of, okay, so I don't think the writer's anti-Mormon, but I can see why people thought it was so anti-Mormon. But the reason why I thought that so many people rational people could ask, is this an anti-Mormon hit piece? Was the only reason I didn't think it was a hit piece, and I was going to lay at the feet of incompetence what could be others
Ascribed
would
to
call
malice.
Yeah, could be ascribed to malice, is how we got so much history wrong. Like there's a moment where like Brigham Young like mumbles to himself as he gets off the horse at Fort Bridger saying, oh, this is the place. And it's like, I think even if you were even if John DeLynn could write the script that he wanted, you know what I'm saying? America, think of Mormons. I don't think he would have bumbled that line that badly. Do you get what I'm saying? Like it's there were things that were bumbled so badly that, and I've been in way too many writers groups here in Hollywood where like, I'm not saying this writer has this problem, but it's like, people are always trying to settle the scores that they grew up with. Like these writers that were bullied by football people, you'll read 3 of their scripts and 2 out of 3 times the bad guy is a jock from the football team. Like they just carry this trauma with them into their art. And sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, right? But also sometimes you read their stuff and there's this breed of person that's a writer that like, I don't want to say is kind of outdated, but they wear like these childhood scars, and it's really funny. Like you'll be in these writers groups, you'll read somebody's script, you know, and you'll be like, okay, cool, pitch it to me. Like give me the elevator pitch, just get an idea before I dive in, right? And they'll be like, okay, you know, so this is the premise, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy, but he's got a secret that he doesn't want to tell his parents. And you're like, oh, dude, what? Oh my gosh, is this like something sci-fi? Is this something, you know, boom, you're thinking way up here, right? And he's like, no, he's gay. And you're like, bro, that's literally like 2005 drama. You know what I'm saying? That's like Will and Grace. Like this is like, no, people aren't thinking like, come on. And I almost think like, really, does the Mormons in the West, does that really carry the weight? Like are you just, I don't know. And the other thing is it shows Hollywood has a total blind spot because Mormons, we're like the libertarians. We're like the libertarians of the religious world in America. Everybody's used to the Catholics and the Protestants, just like they're used to the Republicans and the Democrats. And they don't understand that Mormonism is Catholic richness with Protestant sensibility. But because they're so brain damaged by both of them and their scandals, whether it's the Catholic scandals or whether it's the Christian right that was mostly Protestant in the 80s that they, you know, tried to censor them and they're reacting against and so on and so forth, since they don't know us, and like Jacob Hansen says, they talk about us but not with us. They don't know how to contextualize our faith and who we are historically. So they either write us as one of two things: esoteric Catholics that are fanatical because that's all they know, are esoteric Catholics that were fanatical or scandalized, or they write us as Southern Baptist religious zealots who will be just Westboro Baptist on anything different, and in the 1800s we had guns. Like that's all they know how to write. And so sometimes I do get angry, but then I think, what's the fix? Is the fix us running to YouTube and trying to correct all the historical errors? No, because most people aren't watching it for history. They're watching it just to have a good time. And yes,
and then getting riled up against the Mormons on accident.
And then they're getting riled up against the Mormons is a byproduct, right? And so the writer I was referring to earlier, it's like, look, if you're brain damaged by the Christian right in the 80s and you felt like your, you know, final project in theater class in 12th grade was stifled because of your, I don't know, Christian vice principal or something, you don't get back at him by writing Brigham Young into a historically inaccurate, mini series on Netflix 25 years later. I think is the solution for us as members just jumping to the internet, trying to correct all the historical inaccuracies? No, because that's not why people came. Is it to say, hey, no, we're not that way? And by acting fanatical about not being fanatics? No. I think the real fix is competing with Hollywood. The true solution to this is BYU TV. But BYU TV is sitting on their duff, wasting $43 million a freaking year, doing absolutely nothing to market themselves. No, seriously.
What do you say about that, King Mosiah?
Well, no, but like, do you know what could be done? Like, Disney has lost so much rapport amongst parents in North America who had Disney had their trust on lockdown. If you and your wife all of a sudden got tickets to, I don't know, the Dave Matthews Band, because you're elder millennials that like Dave Matthews. I didn't even like Dave Matthews. Who is that? He was a guy that was popular in the early 2000s, and I don't know. I thought it'd be a culturally relevant example.
I think maybe I've heard his name.
Let's just say, I don't know, Justin Bieber tickets fell in the lap. Here, better yet, go. Taylor Swift. Is that better, babe? Taylor Swift. You got Taylor Swift tickets. Okay. Whatever. Let's just say free tickets for something cool landed in your lap, and you wanted to take your wife out to this thing for 2 or 3 hours, and you had to hire a babysitter last minute. You didn't know what to do. You could let them watch Disney movies. You can have them watch a couple of Disney movies, because at the end of the day, Disney doesn't have anything that's wildly offensive in it. And Disney was going to get those royalties and was going to get those ticket sales. If your kids wanted to go out to with their friends and they said they were going to a movie theater to watch a Disney movie, oh, okay, fine, whatever. Because I know Disney doesn't make offensive stuff. Yet they kept on trying to wedge in all this woke stuff enough that parents said, okay, you've lost my trust. Yeah. And everything from canceling Disney Plus to losing their tax-exempt status in Florida, Disney took a big hit over the past 10 years. Do you know who could fill that void? BYU TV. BYU TV has tons of cartoons, tons of family-friendly content, tons of all kinds of stuff.
Start independently creating stuff. I think we just need to start making stuff.
I think so. Because they're not going to do it. Our tithing dollars literally go to just get... Dude, BYU TV wastes so much money, bro. I have friends that work at the academy and work at, you have no idea, dude. It's so incompetent, bro. If
but
we
Ruby
had...
in the Well
you really think
so
that?
Good.
The sad thing is they actually have good stuff. For example, Ruby in the Well, phenomenal programming. But the problem is nobody knows that our tithing dollars actually go to an entire worldwide entertainment platform that could easily compete with Netflix. BYU TV will sometimes buy the rights to major Hollywood movies that are actually family friendly, and they curate a library that you can actually watch.
Like Ever After with Drew Barrymore.
Okay, they also had Sabrina with Harrison Ford, and I would trust my kids to be let loose on BYU TV and not find anything that was going to be horrible, right? But have you ever seen a conference talk? Have you ever seen a stake conference, a ward conference, where a church leader was instructed to go up and say, look, I know we talk a lot about media consumption in the morality of raising our children. Did you know that your tithing dollars are paying for a BYU TV, podcast, and radio station that provides all kinds of great content? I sat down and I watched Ruby in the Well for a day straight with my daughter on a Saturday, and it's still a great memory for us. And I think this is great programming. You guys should give it a chance and check it out. They don't, but dude, they make a 4-year consideration packet. This is what I've heard, and who knows? Maybe I need to be fact checked on this. Maybe the guy telling me was incorrect, or maybe he was confusing this with another outlet, but I don't think so, because he asked me. He told me, he's like, dude, he's like, every single production you guys make, we get a 4-year consideration packet, even if it sucks, and they never win anything, but it must be some line item on their on their yearly budget or something like that they have to put a 4-year consideration packet in. It's like the amount of money that they just put in that, if they would just, I don't know.
Yeah, because, does anyone know about BYU TV? If you're not a member of our church, would you know about BYU TV?
See, people found out about Studio C. They heard about that because it was just dang funny when it started, right? And that went really far. But I want to get us back to some super chats before we digress too far.
And that's in spite of the church's marketing, not because of it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Now, Fidget the Crazy says,
Ooh.
I have the scene in my head where one of the three Nephites finds the aftermath of the Mountain Meadows massacre and just has an emotional breakdown. My way of saying this happened and it was terrible, and no, Brigham Young didn't sanction it. Now, I want to comment on this. Do you know how many times the church has addressed the Mountain Meadows massacre?
They built a
It's been,
monument.
yeah, it's been so many times that the church has addressed this and done everything they can to make it right. It just feels like, come on, guys, what are you doing when you're bringing this out and making it the main focus in the first episode of your thing here? And then she also said the Mountain Meadows massacre was a response from scared, hurt people that were ready to be hurt again. You could say there was a streak of revenge involved. It was the response of someone who felt cornered. Yeah, that is fascinating. There's a lot going on with the historical records of the Mountain Meadows massacre. I would invite anyone who wants to know more about it to check out Mormoner.org's Mountain Meadows Massacre Q&A that they have. If you just go to Mormoner.org and search Mountain Meadows Massacre, you'll be able to see it. In it, they have all of these accounts where it's hard to tell exactly what was going on. Like there are alleged accounts that there was a group of people who had joined the Fancher Party called the Missouri Wildcats,
Yeah.
who were bragging about having murdered Joseph Smith.
No, not
right?
Joseph Smith. Parley P. Pratt.
Both.
Oh, were they
In-
also?
Yeah, in the records, it talks about how
Oh.
there were people who claimed to have been in the mob that killed Joseph Smith. Right?
Interesting. Okay.
And so, like, remember that was not that long ago for these people who had just come out west. Now, there's other stuff about them having poisoned cattle, and like what of this is true, what of it doesn't? Like we don't know. There's so much of this around there that maybe this is people making it up after the fact in order to try to justify the massacre that they committed, right? But you also see the records where they were having a high council meeting. They were trying to decide what to do. They sent off a writer to Brigham Young to ask. And when he got to Brigham Young, he said, stop them, right? Like sent them a letter. And he went down and didn't make it back in time before they had committed the atrocity.
Yeah.
So I don't know. When I read the records, it seems to me like Isaac Haight is kind of the guy who is most at fault for it. He dodged any sort of repercussions for it because he ran, right?
Yeah.
John D. Lee's the guy who ends up getting executed for it later. But yeah, there's a lot to this history that is just, it feels weird to me to take that tragic of a moment in history and be like, hey, let's exploit this for a Wild West. Like, come on. You take the worst moment. That's, I don't know. I don't like it. Now, next up, we got Lizzie MP. She says, good evening. I was bombarded by lots of anti-Mo content on Instagram today, so I'm grateful for tonight's live stream. You guys are great. Oh, no.
Yeah, for real.
Here we are talking about American Primeval. I'm sorry, Lizzie.
It's probably because of American Primeval she's seeing all this anti-Mormon content.
Well, I think it's actually so. I don't think like two things are happening simultaneously at the same time right now. Being in California here with these wildfires, California is waking up to the incompetence of its own government. And it's also realizing that all these social issues that they have pushed at the expense of competence, all of this woke, this, racial, that, sexual orientation, X versus feminism, Y, whatever, at the expense of firefighters that can do their job, that want to do their job because they're not vilified, police officers that want to do their job because they're not vilified, infrastructure that works, that turns on when a building is on fire, that all of this wokeness has finally cost us in the keep here, and so many are just waking up and just saying, oh my gosh, like, how did it get this way? Like, is this enough? I think American Primeval, for a lot of members and for the church at large, at least in North America, is kind of like a little bit of a wake up call too, as well, in the sense of like, they're realizing what I've said for years. I've been saying, letting mega farms have all the water and then diverting residential water out for the Delta smelt is a losing argument. I'm a total environmentalist here, but that's going to lead to our inability to combat wildfire. I was saying this a decade ago on Problem Solver Politics at FM 98.1, having these exact same conversations. And unfortunately, my prophecy came true 12 years later. Right? And it wasn't just mine. There's plenty of other people saying that, right? Well, we've also been saying...
whenever I go for a walk, when I come down to do episodes, I'm like, that's an awful lot of fuel building up there, you know?
And you can't touch it.
I can see it.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't touch it or else you're a baddie. Well, I think simultaneously for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it was said on a podcast... Jillian Michaels actually has a really interesting podcast now, and Anna Kasparian, of all people, being a Los Angelino, sounds like a total...
Before we dive too far into the fire stuff, we do have more...
Oh, no, this has to do with American Primeval.
Okay, cool.
Is Jillian Michaels said the thing that she feels Los Angelinos have finally woken up to and why the wildfire was a wake-up call was because she said people finally realized nobody's coming to save you. Like all these people that you voted for, all these politicians that you've entrusted with for X, Y, or Z social reason, none of them are coming to save you. When the crap hits the fan, they will not be there for you. They are not on your team, right? Well, I kind of think that now Mormons with American Primeval, we've always kind of held out for this idea that like, well, at some point we will be justified. Like at some point they're going to come around and realize we're not just the bad guys and we can be endlessly exploited for, clicks and views and villains in Netflix series. And sooner or later it's going to even out and, oh, no, it never did. You know what? They're not coming for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping.
Well, they have no incentive to, right?
Exactly. Because we either have to rise up and go ADL. And Mormon niceness culture, you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? You can't write articles, make lists, confront people. No. You know what I'm saying? Because we could talk about that endlessly, and everybody already knows my opinion on niceness culture. So niceness culture prevents us from going full ADL. So what's left? I think a lot of people are asking that. And the only viable thing that I think a church that has money and resources could do is actually finally start competing. BYU TV. CBS used to make a movie a week. They built their empire in the 70s off a movie a week. You give guys like me, filmmakers like me, friends of mine here in Hollywood, $100,000, we'll make you one of those. And I got 52 teams that'll do the exact same thing, for literally $5.2 million, which they burp in a fiscal quarter. We could literally have a movie a week on BYU TV and birth a zeitgeist, birth a social fabric that would go beyond just Mormonism. It would be throughout basically everybody conservative, everybody faithful, everybody that just wanted positive content. Why does Hallmark get all of the cute Christmas and Valentine's Day and Thanksgiving films? Why couldn't that be us? Why couldn't we be establishing our own social fabric? Because when you just cede that territory, others come in and they take it and they just exploit it. So I'm hoping this is a wake-up call. I veer verbose.
You called the Hallmark movies cute.
You watch them?
I know, and you make fun of me, but you just called them cute.
Well, I watch them if I have ulterior motives.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Cardon. We need to be making more good stuff. That's the thing. We need it to be good.
Yeah, and actually,
we need
audience,
to not be what?
I was going to say, audience. Seriously, Brad has 3 hilarious scripts I've read. We can make for $100K. I know I got 5 scripts that are hilarious, tangentially Mormon movies, not just like Mormon like cringe, like Christian movies, like good regular family films that have characters in them that we would recognize them as Mormons that the rest of the world wouldn't, and we could make them all 50, 100K. We can make them all. Like, call me if you're out there and want something to actually happen, because they're not coming for you. You know what I'm
Dude,
saying?
honestly, American Primeval does feel like it's radicalizing me into like, okay, fine, I'm just gonna tell Mormon stories now, right? Not like John DeLynn Mormon stories, like real Mormon stories, like actual stories about our history, about our people, and just about our people right now. Like, come on. The representation we have for currently is the secret lives of Mormon wives. Come on. Like, we need better content. So let's just start making it.
Yeah,
Let's
did this is that your reaction to this? Like, what was your reaction? Like, did this kind of like did it piss you off? Did it just disappoint you? What was your reaction?
It's hard to say because I guess I was watching it too clinically to like really have a solid emotional reaction myself. I think my emotional reaction maybe came before I even got to watch the series based on all of the chatter I was seeing online about it, right? When I
Okay.
started seeing all of these people saying, "Oh, we what is it?" One of them said, Governor Boggs didn't go far enough.
Oh,
The guy who made the extermination order that drove my ancestors out of freaking Missouri. Like, come on. That stuff like that, I was like, okay, I've got to just start writing some dang good scripts. Because that's the thing. I think when I look at media that disappoints me from what we have produced as a people, it primarily dies in the script. I feel like things have not ended up good by the time they are going to be filmed, right? That is where I feel like we're weakest. And so that's where I want to be strongest in my push to try and make things better, is to try and take the time to make the script actually good, to do the feedback necessary to actually update and do additional drafts so that we don't have problems that should have been taken out by draft 5. Like that's what I felt when this project started getting publicized, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what about you?
For me, I'm in the exact same boat as you. I constantly say on this channel, I'm super grateful that we have a voice and we have a microphone and we have the best audience in the planet and so on and so forth. But sometimes, if I'm honest with myself, I do get frustrated too. One of my constant frustrations is just like, we're squeezing water out of rocks on this channel. Like, we're squeezing water out of rocks. Dollar for dollar, the amount of clicks and views and impact and influence that this YouTube channel has is wildly exponentially higher than any media outlet, I swear, that the church has. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're constantly doing the church's job, but on 1/1 millionth of the budget. You know what I'm saying? We've talked about this when we were talking about like Young Men Worldwide. Why isn't there just a Young Men's podcast that happens daily? Or why isn't there a youth committee podcast where every region has their own youth committee with their own podcast? Like, why isn't media consumption on the level that our youth consume it ubiquitous in our culture? But you can't convince LDS leadership to make a podcast, to start a live stream, to do a podcast movie, to get an independent film made, to create culture. You couldn't squeeze $100,000 out of the church to do that. But man, if you wanted to tell them to drop an extra $5 million in the northeastern Bonneville radio market, like they're just, it's all of our leadership is so analog. None of this new technology speaks to them. And so it's like, I kind of just feel like we're just like a lost generation. You know what I'm saying? And there's no better evidence for it than our media,
Yeah, we just got to start making our own stuff.
Yeah.
And that kind of feeds into this next super chat from Robert Hall.
Millennials are poor though.
Tired.
Boomers got all the
What?
money, bro. Boomers got all the money. We're paycheck to paycheck. I don't got $100,000 sitting around, but man.
We'll get there. So Robert Hall says, so tired of Hollywood misrepresentation. We need a serious LDS takeover. Fulfill Spencer W. Kimball's vision. It's time. Dude, I love that talk that he's referring to. The Gospel
what
Vision
is
of the
that?
Arts.
What is that?
Have you read that one?
Is that the one
Dude,
where he said
literally everyone who watches this stream should go and read The Gospel Vision of the Arts by Spencer W. Kimball. It's a fantastic address he gave at BYU, talking about how we need to be making really incredible content. If we can be making good content under the influence of God, right? If we have the Spirit of God with us, think of how much he can assist us in making really incredible things and really incredible content. And that's what I want to have happen. I want to see that happen. What I feel like I've seen people get precious about their ideas and then decide like, oh, well, this idea is something that no one can criticize and we can never iterate on it further to actually make it good. Like that's what I feel like happens far more often. So I want
You
to
feel
see
that's
that
what we
gospel
lack
vision
as
of
a
the arts
culture?
fulfilled.
You think we lack artistically as a culture the ability to collaborate and like self-reflect on the things we brainstorm, or what?
That's probably part of it. I think it might be outgrowth of the niceness culture that you're talking about, that people don't know how to give good feedback on scripts. They feel like they're going to come across as a jerk if they say this part of your script isn't working, right?
Uh,
And I think there's maybe a little bit of pride in people who are writing the scripts that they don't want to hear the parts that aren't working, right? They want to have it right the first time. It's really difficult to do. Riley and I, we did writing at BYU. Like we studied this at BYU. We studied playwriting primarily.
yeah.
And dude, it is so difficult. It's not that people are bad people. It's that this is one of the hardest things to do. You have to give up your ego in the things that you wrote.
I have
And
literally been in verbal yelling matches over scripts in my own living room.
yeah,
Brittany has
absolutely.
been there. And it's like, okay, so I'm writing something right now with Dave Howard. He wrote Galaxy Quest. Great guy. Totally awesome dude. And
What do I tell you, Cardon, when you guys are getting heated?
you're getting passionate.
You're getting passionate.
You know? But no, he has this phrase where I always say kill your darlings. He always says the best idea wins. And we have great collaboration. We've plain old just said like, bro, that's cringe. Like it just. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a weirdo like that. Maybe it's something that's just come with time. But yeah, like I don't know what it is. To me, funding's a big part of it. I haven't been able to.
Absolutely, yeah. Funding's got to be part of it. Also, I think
You have
we
to take a
need-
risk. We're a risk-averse culture.
No. And part of it is actually background of, was it Richard Dutcher or Ed Decker? Do you know which one like swindled a ton of people out here in Utah?
Well, Ed Decker wrote The God Makers. Richard Dutcher made God's Army.
Is that? Yeah, I can't remember which. Some Mormon filmmaker guy got a whole lot of money out of some people here in Utah and then just ran off with it. So I think he like burned the ability for people to make movies here in Utah for a very long time.
Really?
And then this is my like rough remembrance, because I need to look up exactly what happened with it, but I think that's a big part of why you see a difficulty in getting the what is it called? In getting the people to consider funding it, right?
Well, also
because
the
they've been burned in the past.
Well, this super chat, he says, we need an LDS takeover. Like, dude, I went and I was actually, I didn't make it into BYU film school. Dean Duncan, the guy that was the head of the film school, he said over his dead body would I be allowed to be a film student. And then he
Nice.
said, you're a cocky Southern Californian. Actually, there's
Well, he was right about that, right?
Yeah,
Like-
whatever. I made the coolest video project, and frankly, the guy that used to work at CBS, Jeff Parker, or Jeff
Parkin?
Parkin, yeah, Jeff.
I love
Parkin.
that guy.
Yeah, he's pretty rad. He told me, he said, honestly, bro, you need to go make something that's not so good, or else we don't think that we have anything to teach you. Like, this was actually really good, bro. And he said, he was my counselor, and he said, no, you need to go make something crappier. Like, go do something with a freaking handy cam, Because I actually hired some buddies of mine, and we wrote a script, and one of the buddies I hired is a DP on a couple of, and directed a couple of Super Bowl commercials now, So anyway, the only reason I say that, though, is just because, like, I didn't make it into BYU film school. I got cut, right? And so what I did was I went down, I got a job in the backlot of Universal Studios that summer. I actually became a backlot studio tour guide, and I was on the backlot every single day, and it was totally funny. And the hilarious part is, of everybody that was in my film class aspiring to get into the media arts program. I'm the only one that actually got a job with NBC Universal. And I was able to go down onto the back lot all day, and you get side gigs on different shows, like whether it's Suits that was filming there back then, or whether it was, I don't know, some Western or some sci-fi or whatever it is. And Universal Studios loved me so much. Universal loved me so much. They actually gave me their own email address, and they said, we want to deputize you because you're bilingual, you're attractive, you're funny, you got the personality, and you can memorize the script, and you can do it in both languages. Are there more of you? And I said, oh yeah, dude, I'm a dime a dozen where I come from, dude. There's like up at BYU, there's 15 million bilingual guys. And they loved that I was sober. Like in their contract, being a Universal Studios tour guide, you're actually allowed to be drunk at work as long as you're not one of the people driving. And so the fact that I was there, I was on time, I was sober, and I was funny, they said, can we audition more of you? I walked in 3 times into BYU's internship department place with my card that said NBC Universal on it. And I said, hey, Universal is interested in hiring 40 of us. Like literally, they said, how many do you think we could have? Or maybe it was 20. I remember it was a factor of 20. And I said, they want to start an internship program. They'd be willing to help pay for housing, to pay for travel, and they would come up here to audition us. Like they want to talk, we want to talk, right? Hand out my card 3 or 4, and never got a phone call back.
Yeah.
Never got a phone call.
I am depressed by
that could have been a pipeline.
Things like that I hear.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Divine Comedy, we had the opportunity to go perform for America's Got Talent. They literally reached out to us to have us come and do an audition. And the sing-off is what got Vocal Point on the map. It made Vocal Point huge for a really long time. It was super helpful. It got a ton of people to have really good feelings about the church in general and about BYU, because these talented, really awesome guys that they had came out and did this. My group just didn't want to audition. They just didn't want to audition for America's Got Talent.
What?
Didn't matter that was going to be something that could be so helpful to literally every person that came to Divine Comedy after us. Would have benefited so immensely from us being able to get Divine Comedy onto a national stage. That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
And just because of like small town politics stuff where they didn't want anyone to take up too much screen time or whatever, they were super weird about it and ended up choosing not to do it. It was really, really disappointing to me. That killed my confidence in us being able to make something happen. When we talk about no unhallowed hand will stay the work, right? It's because the hallowed hands are too busy doing it, I think, sometimes. And so, like, I don't say this just to complain. Yeah. I bring this up because I think we need to set our pride aside on these sort of things and do what we can to, like, elevate our people more, man, we gotta do some stuff. But back to super chats. The Stick of Joseph says, love you, gentlemen, the Paul Bros.
We love you back.
Thank you.
And the new logo.
Mm-hmm. And Ryan Doctor says, Brigham Young was a boss. The portrayal was fine. Did everyone forget the extermination order? The murder of our prophet? Yeah, I mean...
What do you mean by the portrayal was fine?
I'm not sure. I wonder what he does mean by that.
Yeah.
I don't think that a portrayal of Brigham Young as like this conniving, evil dude is fine. When you look at the historical record, you actually have the opportunity for, even if you want to make him more menacing, he was a humorous dude. Try to make it more real to life. I guess this makes it easier for us to be like, yeah, it's not really history, right? Because it just doesn't match what he was like. But you've got him like threatening Jim Bridger in a scene that I've seen so far. I haven't watched the entire series yet, but like just stuff that he's like up in Jim Bridger's face, telling him how like he's going to like get rid of everything for him. And there was conflict over Fort Bridger, right? But yeah, like, I don't know. It feels like.
Would you have, if you weren't watching this for its cultural relevance in the conversation around this podcast or Mormonism at large or whatever, do you feel you would have watched the whole thing to the end and completed the series and given them all of their watch time? Like, do you think you would have finished
personally?
it? Yeah,
me personally, no, because I normally don't watch anything anywhere near this violent, right?
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, no, no,
Brad's
no.
too
This
pure.
is.
Oh wow, you're a much better parent than me. Yeah, I watch this crap with my kids. But
Oh my God, Cardon, no, dude.
They did not watch it.
okay. I have an iPad on my daughter's. No, I'm just kidding. Like when she goes to sleep, it's to the sound of, Indians scalping pioneers on the
gosh.
plains. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
See,
yeah. Robert Hall also says, honestly, there is rich opportunity to tell church history with drama. History is always more three-dimensional than we imagine, but I'm tired of misrepresentation and tropes.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Honestly, the trope is the easy way out, right? Crazy cultist, very simple for your audience to grasp, And so I guess that's probably part of why they went this direction too.
Yeah, and you know what? But again, maybe this is just me being a man trying to fix it whenever we have a conversation about something like this. But again, just anybody in the audience, you want to make a movie, you want to start that trend. Really, the only thing that has inhibited us, because we've been talking about this for a long time, Brad, and we've been slowly saving up for smaller productions, and we've written some scripts. Like I've seen scripts you've written, you've seen scripts I've written. The only thing that's really held us back is funding. So I just think, if I don't know if it's one of these families in Utah or one of these foundations out of Arizona or whatever, these people have so much cash to throw at like silly, stupid stuff that does not move the needle, except for the to the already convinced, I just think if I were in charge, I would start a robust feature film and like BYU TV series on anything and everything, because dollar for dollar, I don't think you can build more social fabric faster from that, at least in terms of entertainment. That and bring back church sports. You know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
I'm doing church ball.
Are you really? Is it actually officially sanctioned?
Yeah. My elders quorum president talks about it every.
Oh yeah, they took away church athletics and both our stakes.
Oh.
We haven't had it for
that's too bad.
Yeah, we haven't had it for a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Okay, next up we got Andy Young says, hear about the town in Australia that's 100% LDS.
Yes.
Whoa.
Can I move there?
Oh, you didn't
Is
know
it
about
cheap?
this, bro?
No, I haven't heard about this. Yeah.
Oh, there was an article. I think it was a Ward Radio News article that was written. I'm going to see if I can pull it up right now.
Is it on a coast somewhere? Because I'm in.
No, actually,
Oh, man.
it's if you go to Ward Radio News, I think it's the 4th or 5th article down at this point. I just pulled up the blog right now, and I'm going to stick it on your screen. Yeah, third one down. Faith in the Outback, how this Aboriginal community became modern pioneers. Apparently, it's like right in the middle of the country.
Oh, geez.
And that's why it's so remote. But
wow.
apparently, yeah, they did like a temple trip, and then here's like, yeah, it's heavily Aboriginal. There's a bunch of, yeah, it's like an entire town that is just, it's like, I don't know, like the Mexican colonies. What is that called? Colony Juarez? Colonia Juarez.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a little Colonia Juarez right in the middle of Australia. Yeah, it's nuts, man.
Man, I'll have to look at how much houses cost there. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
for real,
that'll be
dude.
cheaper than here in Utah.
So
next,
last super chats, yeah.
Scott Nelson says, people see the massacre in Waco as tragedy, even though Koresh was a legit cult leader. How would the public feel if the Hans Mill or Utah War was known? Yeah, and that's the thing that kills me about this is that, like, this is kind of them saying, oh, this is the Utah War, which was bloodless. Like, there was no, like, there was minor skirmishes. There was no, like, real battles here.
Yeah.
You know? Like, the closest we got to fighting was they came to Salt Lake, and they had everyone ready to burn their own homes rather than let them take over, right? Like, it's, I don't know. And I understand they're fictionalizing for the sake of a gritty Western, right? That's what they're wanting to do. Can you just make my people a little less one-dimensional as you do it? I would appreciate that.
Well, the
But
truth
again,
is, American Primeval did pretty much show you can say anything you want about Mormons and there's no blowback.
yeah.
You know? And so it's like, I mean, some might
Well,
consider
it's only
that-
been out a little bit, right? Like, I guess Book of Mormon the musical showed how we'll encounter it in a really good-natured way. And honestly, even with American Primeval, when I look at this even if someone made this wanting to like make Mormons mad, I don't want to look at this and get angry over it.
Yeah.
I want to look at this and be like, okay, what am I going to do to like make things right as much as I can, right?
Yeah.
So that's the direction I'm going to try to go.
Yeah, we got to finish these scripts. We already got tons of scripts though, bro. We just got to make the first one. We got to make the first one.
Yeah.
Okay,
now,
cool.
DJ 7223 says we need more films like Mobsters and Mormons.
Yeah, if Hailstorm Entertainment hadn't gotten greedy, you know, but we're really doing that here. Oh yeah, I know the whole backstory.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, basically. I mean, there was the big scandal where they accidentally shipped out a bunch of Mormon movies with the porn. Do you remember that? Like their distribution company was both, from what I remember correctly.
Oh, I've never heard about that.
Oh yeah, the guy that used to run Hailstorm. Now I think he's a hypnotist, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, like there was a whole demise and a big fat scandal. If I remember correctly, this might be the apocryphal story. I don't have like some Salt Lake Tribune article, but I think they accidentally shipped out the distributor, the distribution arm that somebody else had made was distributing all kinds of different films, and then they accidentally mixed some of the bad movies with some of the family friendly covers, if you know what I'm saying. And I think there was like some mistaken shipment. If the apocryphal story is true, I'm gonna have to look this up while I'm cruising here. But the point is this: that it stopped. I mean, there's been a little bit of a resurrection lately. Like I Garrett Batty that we interviewed on the show made cool movie about, you know, faith like angels, and there's been some individual filmmakers who have really stepped up and have done something. But like this is actually where I think the Scripture Centrals, the More Good Foundations, the things like that could really shine. Like I if I had my way, I'd just drop the come follow me's with like, you know, I mean, the only person in my family that watches ostensibly Mormon content, a couple now, like my biological father just said, oh, hey, you know, do you watch Follow Him? He's gotten into podcasts, and his podcast is Follow Him with Hank Smith and John, by the way. And I'm like, okay, cool. My biological father is like dyed in the wool Mormon, not going anywhere. I'm glad that he's happy with the content and it works for him and it's augmenting his spirituality, but that's not moving the needle. That's not really, you know, it's building a little bit of social fabric, but it's really preaching to the already converted and preaching to those that are already convinced, right? And then I asked in my family, hey, who watches Mormon media? I was trying to get an idea of who watches stuff like on YouTube, on Twitter, on what their consumption is. And then one of my parents-in-law, you know, says, oh, I like so-and-so. It was one of the Scripture Central guys, right? And they're dumping tons of time and energy and resources into this, but it seems like these people are already convinced. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, we're not targeting youth. We're not targeting people on the fence. We're not grabbing market share. We're not casting a wide net. We're kind of like cultivating in a new way. It's like I'm trying to say 17 things at once here, so of course it's not coming out right. But basically, it's like when you look at Young Men Worldwide on the Instagram page, you can definitely tell that it's a bunch of bureaucrats and old people who think that Instagram is the new email thread. And so they're just saying announcements that you would like say from the pulpit about the Young Men's program and where it's going via Instagram, as though like it's somehow a replacement for email, not realizing, no, Instagram is a living, breathing entity that has its own culture, its own demands, its own participants, and you are completely missing the mark. Let's get somebody in here that knows how to make good Instagram content for young men worldwide, and let's frickin' build the kingdom. Let's have this be a mainstay of being a young man that's growing up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with content that he wants to like and share and subscribe to and pass along to his friends saying, hey, look, dude, look what my church is doing. Like, how BA is this? This is awesome. But instead of like making an announcement of a dude in a shirt and tie in a 5600 Kelvin lit cubicle of the church office building, talking about how, let me tell you, brothers and sisters, how we're going to do things differently this year. It's called age group progression, whatever. And it's like, bro, like,
did you say 2600 lit Kelvin? That's the
5600
office.
5600. Okay. Yeah, no, it's like complete just corporate blue light, right? And you just see that and you're like, we are so far away We're just so far away. And,
Hmm.
you know, so like, yeah, it's like, so I'm with you and I'm just like, oh, hey, rise up. Let's do this. Let's make our own stuff. Let's compete with Hollywood. But Hollywood's Hollywood because it's got deep pockets. And a bunch of elder millennials like you and me, we can't just throw together a $250,000 movie. It takes some funding. But the people with money in Mormonism, they're more convinced of the necessity of like radio ads and, you know, at best a podcast that preaches to 65-year-old stuff they already know. And there's this phrase in politics. I served in the GOP of my local district for a while. And I was a member of the Log Cabin Republicans, young gay kid. It was super cool. He ran for office here, won a couple of spots, lost a couple of spots. But he told me, he said, Cardon, there's one thing you always have to remember. The party always gets what it wants. It always gets what it wants. So when Mormon, even though he wanted to righteously lead his people out of sin and into prosperity, they didn't want it. And they were fighting for revenge and for nothing more. So the Nephites got what they wanted in those final battles, right? I kind of feel like to a certain extent, we're here as a people because we're getting what we want. As a people, this is what we want. We want to not be inconvenienced. And we're waiting for Superman. And he's not coming. And I hope that this wakes up enough people that maybe you and I can get a movie off the ground.
Dude, that would be awesome. In fact, I mean, we already have here another super chat says a couple bucks out of the rock.
Yes.
Thank you, Paul, passerby. Carter Cromar says, this is the reason members should not use generative AI. We need real creativity and creation that glorifies God. Elder Bednar agrees.
Huh. Well, I think generative AI could be part of that.
Well, I mean, as a filmmaker, from a filmmaker perspective, I think there's uses of generative AI that can be helpful in like animating things, but I think he's talking particularly about the writing as well.
I see what you're saying.
I don't think writing should be done by AI. I primarily wish that AI would just get used as a tool, right? Where like animators who go through and make a really cool animated character can have AI just like assist them in the modeling and movement of that character more so than like having people try to rely on generative AI to just put everything there for them, right? Like I hope it becomes a tool, not a thing that just makes stuff for people, right?
Well, true that. Brad, you're good, man. You're
also, we got to welcome Nate Pomeroy.
Yes.
So everyone, please put a big W in the chat for Nate Pomeroy.
All right, rock on. Okay, dude, wow, there's a lot of super chats. I didn't see those. Yeah, let's burn through those, and we'll talk some wildfires.
Okay, I think we're on the last one. I think we've burned through most.
Okay, cool.
So SoCal Saint said the final one. Oh no. SoCal Saint says, if they wanted to consult reliable sources for the truth, it would have happened long ago. There's a force out there that doesn't want anything positive about the church. It's a spiritual war. I think there's truth to that. Yeah, that's a spiritual war, and definitely there's no incentive for these people to come out and make something nice about us, right?
Well, I would like to think even the most cynical producer would see the value of making a cool, gritty Western that is historically accurate and really does show the struggles of some of those early pioneers. And it doesn't have to be some faithful, tear-jerking, build your testimony thing. It's just...
Yeah, and maybe to be fair, maybe that's what they were trying to do. But they got saddled with Lindsay Hansen Park as a historical consultant, right? Like maybe that's what the filmmakers were going out of their way to try to do. And then Lindsay Hansen Park tells them, yeah, Mormons are evil, violent cultists, right?
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of books that say that kind of stuff. And so if I saw an interview with Kim Coates, the guy who's playing Brigham Young, where he talked about several books that he looked into to try to understand what was going on. And like, it seemed like he was pretty steered in church negative directions, right?
Really?
Especially about Brigham Young. Oh, well, to me, that's what it came across as. I mean, look at the
Interesting.
portrayal that he gave. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I will say back on the AI conversation, just because a couple of mentions in the chat, I don't think that AI should ever replace artists. I wish that AI was replacing accountants and lawyers and going through and doing the boring jobs so that creatives can go through and do the thing that they love, right? And
Yeah.
use AI as a tool in their quiver, right?
Yeah. I think it's coming.
Yeah.
And last one is welcome to the basic telestial ticket Peabot at Magic Valley Muse. Now that's a username. I think they literally just put in their email address on accident. But awesome Peabot
Nice.
is here. And by the way, guys, I noticed a lot of you guys have been signing up for the bonus content on the website. We're basically doing our own Patreon. And if you guys want to watch our bonus content, we're starting to do episodes where we end the regular episode that goes on YouTube, and members get to watch it early, up to 2 or 3 days early sometimes. And then there's actually bonus materials that end up on the website on wardradio.com. If you guys want to check it out, make sure you sign up for wardradio.com. We're still in the beta phase, testing it out, getting feedback, seeing what people think. So it's $1 a month. It's literally only $1, so just sign up. I think it's a good service. And we got Carolyn Wright Gaines music back. What
Oh
up?
yeah, Carolyn Wright.
Yeah, we haven't seen
Music.
her in a while, man. Carolyn, what's happening to us? We used to see each other all the time. Have you been cheating on me?
Oh my gosh.
Was that pretty good, babe?
That was cringe.
Oh man, no, that was a good one. I thought
Okay, it's kind of good. It's kind of cringe.
I would have won the Oscar. Look,
Wow.
all I'm saying is when we make movies, I'm gonna be in the rom-com. You know.
Okay.
No,
No.
he's like, no, don't let him. So yeah, we got Carolyn Wright Gaines music back.
She says, "Hi guys, just checking in. Hello from Idaho."
Yeah, rock on, rock on.
Hello. Carolyn
Okay, so I
Wright
guess
Gaines
let's just wrap it up about American Primeval. I got a lot of emotions going on simultaneously at once. There's one of me that's like, early Christians were dogged on by Greeks and Romans and everybody around them all the time. Keep your head down, love your fellow man, read your scriptures in the morning, and you'll be just fine. We will be just fine. God is in charge. He fights all of our battles. Don't worry about it. But then another part of me is just like, dude, man, can we not get a break? The official church doesn't want to defend us. The all of our enemies are never been going harder with just these never-ending stereotypes and tropes that just like they utterly refuse to stop using. And frankly, anybody that's supposed to defend us is just asleep at the wheel collecting a pension that I pay for with tithing, and it is
Oh
so
my gosh.
freaking. It is
I don't-
so annoying.
I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way.
Bro, like.
You're
There's
not
a-
as cynical as Cardon?
No, there's
What?
a million and one ways we could combat this disinformation and misinformation about Mormons in the media. Like they
Oh, yeah?
freaking let on church property the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives film promo pics. You know, like
Well, we don't know if they
Did they
were
go out of
let.
their way to let that happen? I think they just showed up.
no, but
and
dude,
did it
I get a
without
stop
permission.
production order on anything I do if I don't have it registered 17 ways till Sunday.
Yeah, but Cardon, if they do that, that's just going to make a news story that promotes it even further,
But they
right?
do it for the Mormon mommies that send out coloring books that they made on their own dime to their
Oh,
home
that's true.
to their homeschool groups. Oh yeah,
On Etsy.
last week there was like 17 different homeschool groups and Mormon mommies that had made with their own dime and their own money coloring books for other kids in their homeschool group that said like, oh, this is a temple, Temple. This is a sidewalk, SIDE, finish the word. This is a car, CAR, whatever. And then on temple, there's like an Angel Moroni. Curtin McConkie sent out like 10 different cease and desist letters to Mormon mommies that were trying to teach their kids how to spell the word temple because there was a Moroni on top of the temple in their coloring book that they drew. And they said that's a copyright infringement on their intellectual property. So they'll freaking cease and desist letter a
That
Mormon
sounds to me just
homeschool-
like Californians, right? That's what you're dealing with.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is it's like, how are we in a faith where it's like Hulu can literally take a dump on us in our front yard on church property that my tithing helped pay for. And nobody lifts a finger officially from the church because they're mortified. What will Hulu say? What will the LA Times say? What will the Washington Post say? Meanwhile,
No, Cardon, you don't even have to be mortified. You can just think strategically about it and think, okay, so we either let them run with it,
maybe,
or we give them the ammunition to say Mormon church trying to hide the secret lives of Mormon wives.
but
right?
then don't send
you
them.
know that they're going to make worse headlines if the church does anything to get involved.
Then if we were taking that strategic hands-off approach over here, I would like us to take that strategic hands-off approach with the Mormon mommies and their coloring books.
That's fair.
It sounds like a California problem to me.
No, this was in Utah. This wasn't in California.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it must have been a Californian who moved to Utah.
There you go.
There's a lot of those.
There's plenty of those, bro. Have you heard the conspiracy theory?
My ward split 3 times without us moving.
Oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, Riley and I were in the same spot and redoing the boundaries over and over and over.
Our
all
ward
because
just gets dissolved because there's not enough of us.
Dude.
Because they all came to Spanish Fork. Like,
Yeah.
55 wards, and I think it was 22 stakes,
Is what?
got consolidated during COVID.
Oh.
dang.
Yeah, it was brutal, dude. It was brutal. And I don't know what's going to happen after these wildfires because there were like the Pasadena ward, the Altadena ward. Bro, there's 10,000 structures that were toasted there. Like we're calling customers and friends asking if they still got a house.
Oh, man.
You know, yeah, it is absolutely brutal, man. Like it's weird. See, Los Angeles is a huge place. People don't realize that there's a 45-minute drive in between all of these fires. They're basically circling Los Angeles. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is just the 5 minutes on the fires. I'll tell you what's true or not true with whatever you see in the media. If you got any questions about the wildfires, I'll tell you everything you need to know. But basically, yeah, it's always been a thing in Los Angeles. We can't blame it on climate change. We've had the same rainfall since we were able to start recording it in the 1880s and so on and so forth. What we've really just changed is our legislation. You're not allowed to do controlled burns anymore. You're not allowed to manage the land anymore. There's been so much red tape, so much bureaucracy, so much of this kind of woke environmentalism that now it just makes it impossible for you to manage the land. Growing up, I had friends and family that were park rangers, land managers, so on and so forth. And you'd see guys in their orange jumpsuits and their green jumpsuits on the side of the freeways, the same fuel that you would see every time you'd come down and visit. There would be guys literally working off your parole. If you wanted to get out of prison earlier, you could join a fire crew. And you'd go out and you'd do controlled burns, you'd do digs, so on and so forth. And that's how we kind of kept everybody safe. Well, now they've done graphs now of how much time it takes to like actually get approvals for things. And it takes an average of like 4.7 years or something like that to get approval to burn like 2 acres of forest land or something absurd. You have to prove there's no archaeological relics. You have to prove there's no environmental impacts. You have to prove the X, Y, Z thing. And there's always some crazy cat lady that wants to protest like it's the fall of Saigon, you know? And so everything just builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up. And without any kind of political impetus to get rid of the red tape, just the fuel builds up. And then whenever there's these high winds, it snaps power lines. Unfortunately, we have a huge homelessness problem here, and homeless people start fires every single day in LA. That's a crazy thing. Every single day. There's been studies done about people that consume meth, and apparently it turns you into like a little bit of an arsonist. You know, they don't know why, but methamphetamines in comparison to other drugs, like one of the byproducts is that arsonists just like, man, when they got that high, they turned into super arsonists, dude. Because
you learn something new every day.
You know, they had to shut down the 10 freeway, which is one of the busiest thoroughfares in the entire world because of a homeless encampment fire that was just underneath that freeway just last year. And so, yeah, it's nuts. And then now, yes, people say it's a conspiracy theory that looters are starting fires in different places. Ain't a conspiracy theory, bruh. You know, I've talked to
I
LOEs.
saw that it was confirmed that at least the Kenneth fire was started by somebody.
At least?
I think the real conspiracy theory is that this was all started to hide Diddy evidence, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Hey, if
conspiracy
you
theory.
want to go down the Alley Carter road,
Ooh.
We could go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Give us the 30-second version.
Okay, there's a lot. 30-second version. Okay, Allie Carter, she's a woman. She claims she was sex trafficked as a child and by like Diddy and other celebrities. She talks about like the pedo rings in Hollywood. It's a real thing. And how underneath the Getty Museum are tunnels. And that's how they get the kids in and out to different celebrities' homes.
And the Getty Museum
Getty Museum was on fire. At least the grounds were. And she said all this like 6 months ago, I want to say. And she said, you know, mark my words, it's going to be burned and they're going to burn all the evidence. And now it's all burning. So
yeah, that was a big one. That was a big
one.
That was a big one the first 72 hours. But yeah, it's.
I just think what's crazy about these fires, like I remember in high school, we were evacuated. The fire was right across the street from us. And it just like all the brush. I mean, it goes fast. It goes football fields 5 seconds fast. And I remember the firefighters banging on our door telling us to get out. And we were like, okay. And they said, but keep your door unlocked. And my dad was like, well, why do we keep our door unlocked? Like, and the firefighters were like, in case we need to run into your house to like get away from the fire. And we're like, okay. And I remember like evacuating and the sky was so red. It was the scariest thing. But as close as that fire was, I don't think there was any house that was burned down. Whereas with all these fires, there's like 10,000 plus houses that have burned down. And that's what's
Have you seen
scary.
The footage of Altadena, Brad? Everybody's talking about Pacific Palisades because that's where the big names have lost their houses. Okay, although some of these big names are making a comeback, I think losing their house was like the best thing that happened to Heidi Montag and her husband.
And Spencer Pratt. Yeah.
Have you seen them, bro?
No. I've seen McDonald's in Hell. That's what I've seen.
No. Okay, so Spencer Pratt married Heidi Montag, and they've kind of been like C and D list celebrities now for what?
Did you ever watch The Hills? No, where's Riley? I need Riley on this episode.
They were.
Riley, have you ever watched The Hills?
Like Lauren Conrad.
Is that the prequel to The Hills Have Eyes or something?
No. It's like the OG reality show.
Yeah, it's like it's like the OG reality show about like rich people misbehaving, basically. Okay, it's like The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but just set in wealthy Southern California, right? And this was what, like 2005, 2007, 2011? When was this?
No, yeah, like 2005 or earlier.
Okay, so it's why Heidi Montag took off the very first time, right? Well, no joke. Come on, what has she been in? She hasn't been in anything for a decade, right? And he hasn't been in anything for longer as well, but they had a house in the Pacific Palisades, right? And so their house burns down, and he's had the most hilarious attitude about it. He's like, well, now that I have nothing, I'm starting from nowhere, so I guess I'm just going to make TikToks now. So the first thing
bad timing for that.
No, yeah, bad timing for that, but it's hilarious because everybody, you tell them what's going on, babe. How are these guys taking off?
It's just funny. Like, he knows in order for him to be monetized, he has to have a video that lasts a minute. So he'll just like ramble on and he's like, okay, I'm close to a minute. Okay, it's a minute. Bye. Like,
he's taking his wife's songs that she made in 2005 and he makes bird seed goop.
Hummingbird nectar.
Yeah, he makes hummingbird nectar out of sugar and water. And while he's making it, he's playing Heidi Montag's song, Go Harder, in the background, just so her song now, because so many people are re-tagging her music from 2005 in it because they know that her house burnt down. She's #1 in the charts for the past week.
On iTunes. Yeah. Just this single she had that's not even very good, and it's now #1 on iTunes, and people are like, you know what, yeah, like, we're gonna get you back your house, like, we're gonna make you rich, and it's an awesome timeline to be living in, is what I'm trying to say.
So anyway, the point is this: everybody knows and sees the photos of what's happening in Pacific Palisades because that's where the celebrities are, but a lot of the heartbreak is happening over in Altadena because that's all working class.
Yeah.
And that's where people in my ward, like that work at JPL, that work at Lockheed Martin, work at some of the aerospace firms and things like that, that's where they go and they commute to work to. Dude, it basically made it up to the front door of JPL. Freaking the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Brad. You know, and there's a couple hundred people there. House is completely gone. You're talking about teachers that worked in LA Unified School District for 30 years before retiring, totally gone. And it burned blocks and 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 blocks
Not just burned, like leveled.
Yeah, just like
these cities
level.
are no more.
Looks like if you took a picture at the right angle, looks like freaking Hiroshima. You know, it's pretty nuts, man. So
our son's, one of his teachers' house is burned down. So
yeah,
Seriously.
yeah, really sad.
Dude.
Like, I don't know, and everyone's then you have like secondhand effects from it. Like all of our friends that work in the entertainment industry, all the studios are shut down. So now they're not getting a paycheck, you know, or
electricity's interrupted, phone lines interrupted.
Yeah, so businesses are hurting because you can't get electricity. We have some communities really close to us that have been without power for over a week. And so they're just like leaving their house and trying to go to a hotel, but all the hotels are full because everyone's trying to either your house burned down, you're evacuated, or you don't have electricity. So, yeah, hard.
And it's weird though because
Dude,
like
I'm just glad you guys are okay. I remember when you texted me being like, "Bro, check this out," and it was the evacuation warning for you guys. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Which was a mistake.
Yeah, that was fake. And
Was it
that
really?
made me want to poop my pants because I was not with Cardon, and all of a sudden I had this evacuation warning, like an Amber Alert siren going off on my phone, and I was by myself. Cardon was with, I think you were with one of our kids, and another one of our kids was not with us. So, yeah. But then like 5 seconds, no, it was longer than that.
It was like 15 minutes later.
15 minutes later, it was, oops, sorry, not for your community. And we're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and so they just started, like, for example, a transient, alleged transient, right? Started another brush fire 6 blocks from our house just 5 hours ago. Because the weird thing is that now it's kind of like, you know, when you fart or when somebody farts in a room, like everybody else lets out the fart that they've been holding. You know,
I
like,
don't know what that's
you never
like.
did that?
No,
Oh, okay.
I
What
don't
are
cool.
you talking about, Cardon?
Well, look, now that there's fires going on, anybody that has a mental illness that would like to participate, okay, kind of.
Oh, you're saying copycats?
Yeah, exactly. And so now the fires that are successfully getting put out are like all of these little success, like there's probably been 20 fires that have started since these main 4. There's the Hearst, there's the Palisades fire, there's the Eaton fire, there's the whatever the one is up in Simi. So there's like basically 4 or 5 major wildfires raging right now, but there's been 25 small ones that are like little copycat encampment fires that they've successfully been able to put out that didn't become massive ones, fortunately. But yeah, no joke, like just 6 blocks from our house.
A lot of people are talking about like insurance companies dropping. That's 100% true. Our next door neighbor,
really?
not even just their fire insurance, their entire like homeowner insurance dropped them.
Whoa.
And
And was this because
that's our next door
California had
neighbor.
policies that wouldn't let them adjust their pricing appropriately, or what? What was going on there?
Basically, California just passed a law January 1st of 2024 that effectively, there was a lot of changes they made, but they tried to price control. And there's entire books written on why that doesn't work, right? And that just ruins a community, rent control, you know? But also, like, for example, our business insurance tripled. Everybody's home insurance went up 40 or 50%. All of the companies said, screw this, we're getting out of here. 4 or 5 major providers in California just said, we're going to leave. So everybody had to go to the FAIR program. But what sucks about the FAIR program is FAIR is the insurance you get for, like, it's earthquake and fire, or maybe just fire, I can't remember. But it's a California state program that's paid for by basically, like, fines, not fines, but like a tax levied on anybody that wants to be an insurance provider in California. So either way, the insurance company is still paying for it. Like, you know how like the lottery pays for part of your school, You know, it's like it's paid for. The California Fair program is still paid for by the insurance companies. So a lot of insurance companies just stop providing because they're like, look. And also, dude, it's such a scandal. Like Gavin Newsom, he when PG&E was held responsible for the fires that killed everything in Paradise or destroyed everything in Paradise Valley, he basically organized a settlement for all the victims where it was tied to the value of the PG&E stock, which is the utility that was in charge of the poles that caused the fire. And so like now you literally have victims of PG&E negligence having to pray at night that PG&E stock goes up so that the destruction PG&E was responsible for will have money enough to pay them out. And everybody's utility cost goes up. And it's just like, for me, this is a massive warning. Like, we've been saying this in California, screaming it from the rooftops. Members of the church, Christians, conservatives, Republicans, whatever you want to call them. You know, I would like to think just centrist people that like competence, clean air, clean water, good schools. You know, we've been saying, hey, when you sacrifice competence at the altar of wokeness, DEI, weird ideologies, transing the kids, feminism, all that other stuff.
It doesn't even have to be any of that. I mean,
oh no, it does here, and it has been.
No, I'm saying it doesn't even need to be that. When you are neglecting your duty on cleaning out the brush that is clearly has been there for like 20 years, every time that, like, when I go to California, I see that all the time, and I'm like, are they ever going to do anything about that? I mean, that apparently, yes, there has been something done about it, but it was not.
Do you know
by the state.
More carbon was released in the Paradise brush fire than like all the carbon of all the bombs dropped in the Ukraine thus far? And that more carbon was released in these brush fires than we've saved in every carbon capture program throughout the state. Like, it's just, it costs us, like, even from a cynical environmental perspective, if you were about like climate change. And that's the other thing, is the only thing you're allowed to say, you can't say, oh, it was incompetence on behalf of a public leader, because all of our public leaders here are Democrats. That would be speaking evil of a Democrat. There's zero statewide Republicans. So if you were to criticize and say, oh, well, it was the mayor, Karen Bass's fault. Well, you're criticizing a Republican and she's a black woman. So that also makes you racist. If you didn't like that your house burned because there was no water in the fire hydrants, you are a racist, which is literally the math that gets done by these woke people when you speak up. But what's interesting is not having water in the fire hydrants, I think, was actually a turning point in Californian culture, because it is an unrefutably negligent soundbite. Did you know the reservoir, the second largest reservoir out of 10 in Southern California that holds fire hydrant and potable drinking water, was completely empty when this started? And the Weather Service had predicted these fires and these red flag days for a week.
Really?
Well, and the mayor, she wasn't even here. She was in Ghana.
She was part of a welcoming committee during the coronation of some.
Biden asked her to go, and it's like, a mayor is overseas.
I understand a mayor going to like something that they were invited to, but it sounds kind of weird when they went, even though they had like a week's worth of warning that a disaster was about to happen.
Well, and also, if one of her campaign items had not been, I promise not to leave, because Eric Garcetti, the mayor before her, and this is insider baseball, I don't want to bore our audience with excessive details, but basically Eric Garcetti.
We're just all jaded down here.
Yeah,
jaded.
Eric Garcetti was lampooned as being an absentee mayor who was constantly showing up at the DNC, constantly showing up at all these different big national conventions and national events, because now he's the mayor of Los Angeles. And it was obvious that he was trying to test the waters to see if he could run for president. That was very unpopular here, because while, the city's burning under BLM riots, you don't want your mayor just out cruising with Barack and Michelle, and schmoozing with Angela Merkel. You want him here taking care of business. So when Karen Bass ran, somebody counted it. It was like 6 times she promised never to leave the city while she was mayor. And then a week after the Weather Service says there will be wildfires, with fair warning, she still goes to Ghana to watch the correlation that has zero relevance to her. That was all just political points, And then when she comes back and people say, hey, where were you? She's like, well, let's not be unburdened by the things that have been. And
she didn't even answer a question.
Yeah, she just starts doing this word salad. And all I hope is this is just all I hope. All I hope is that all these woke schooled Utahns see. And I've said this on the show before. I've said this to Kwaku. I've said this to Jim. I've said this to any, quote, fellow liberal that will listen. I live at the bottom of the slippery slope. And the slippery slope of sacrificing woke for competent, ideology for ability, the price that you pay is no water in the fire hydrants when you need them. No water in the reservoir when it's time, no mayor in the city when it's burning, and then a fire chief who laughed in a video that she literally laughed that I don't know if it was a DEI HR video or whatever.
I saw the clip you're talking about.
Yeah, where she laughs.
It was the assistant fire chief gal who was laughing about how if she couldn't move your husband, that was your husband's fault. He got stuck in a fire.
Could you imagine me as a fire chief on a training video saying, yeah, well, if your wife's stuck in a fire and she started a kitchen fire, well, silly suburban women gonna burn themselves. You don't expect me to take her out, do you?
I couldn't believe that somebody filmed that and had the audacity to say it on film, right? But B, that it made it through the edit. Like, how did that even happen?
Think how corrupting and contaminating the doctrine, the ethos, and the culture of woke has to be for that video to make it through every approval. That's how widespread and rancorous the corruption and this, so this is why on this show for years I've been saying, guys, I know what happens when we adopt this. When you start saying you're not allowed to call into question the competence of your leaders over basic measurable quantifiers because of insert woke talking point here. The second you do that, you make it impossible to fire people in government or in responsible social positions. And these positions exist for a reason. And you can coast for a while on incompetence. You can live off borrowed light, like they say over our testimony for a while. But sooner or later, a day will come when there's barbarians at the gate and you don't know how to defend yourself. Anyway, that day came here, and I just hope that it's a warning for everybody that has adopted the same talking points and the same worldview and the same, vilification of anything conservative or Christian, like Nancy Pelosi has, like Kamala Harris has, like Gavin Newsom has, like Karen Bass has, like all these people that we worship is great and vote for. I just hope that, like Utah, reconsiders its wokeness, because you will literally reach a time when fires are burning your house down and you can't get water out of the hydrant. So it's super downer. Bruh, sorry, dog. That's me, man, right now. But yeah, it's cost us here in LA, and we're lucky. We are so blessed. We have dodged a bullet. There's literally fires happening all around us, and we're one of the lucky ones where, yes, we've been slowed down in traffic. Yes, we've lost power a couple of times. Yes, we've lost phone connections a couple of times. Small price to pay to keep your house, right? Meanwhile, there's other people that have been just devastated. And so anyway, the church is doing some cool things. The Pacific Palisades Chapel survived. So did, from what I hear, and I got to go and double check because this was on the third day of fires, the mission president's home, who was out of town serving a mission somewhere else. There was a member of the church whose house survived. So
oh, really?
I would like to think that those were blessings. Okay. Bishop Storehouse is unloading a bunch. They've already got rid of, I think, 1,500 pallets of water bottles and blankets for affected families. They're already teaming up, I believe, with the American Red Cross. The craziest thing is cops are keeping you out of these neighborhoods, though. Like, bro, you'll get like, and it's actually a good thing that we just had an election and got rid of Gascon. You know, Gascon, that DA that was allowing you any theft below $800 was a non-prosecutable crime.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that.
We used to have for about 12 years, we had a catch and release program where if you caught somebody stealing, you would do what's called cite and release. You'd write them a ticket that they didn't have to pay for and then just leave them. That was what the cops were doing. And looting would be part of that unless you could prove that what they looted was valued more than like $900. So fortunately, that just changed with Prop 46. Yeah.
This reminds me of a, what is it called? In British Columbia, in Canada, I was there for a business conference. There was a sign that said, "No crime." And I was like, what? Why do you need a sign that says like no crime in this area? Like shouldn't that be like everywhere? It was so weird.
Dude, we outlawed murder.
That's what that feels like.
Yeah, it's nuts. So anyway, we're leaving in 3 minutes, guys. If you have any questions about the wildfires, I will gladly talk to you. But yeah, it's been wild because in the family business, we're having to call people up and say like, "Ooh, your service is tomorrow." You know, like
and there's like no like tactful way to say. It's so awkward. It's like,
well, like how do you call somebody and ask if their house is still there?
I usually just say like, "Do you still want your service?" Or
well, yeah, and you're trying to check in on friends and even just acquaintances. Like they don't have to be like your immediate cousin to want to know like, "Hey, bro, are you all right?" and whatnot, you know. But like, you're just like, oof, you know, it's tough. So anyway, we're meandering it through, and I gotta say, Californians rise to the occasion. I love my state. We're a crazy diverse state full of all kinds of psycho nutty people. But like, just like there's a difference between the pulpit and the pews, there is a huge difference between California leadership, all right, and the people. Californians are freaking rad, dude. Like you break down in the middle of the freeway, there might be some Armenian dude, some Mexican guy, some Japanese cat that's gonna get out and help you push that thing, and like it's freaking rad, man. Like people whose grandparents were going to war together are war against each other are pushing cars out of intersections together here in LA. And it's fun. It's cool. The weather's great. The future is bright. We exported all of the awfuls. All the people that got Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom into office, they're already gone. You're welcome, Brad. We dumped him off in freaking Spanish Fork. We're over the hump.
We should call it Tenedor.
Yes. Tenedor español. No, it would be
just Tenedor.
Just Tenedor.
That's
Tenedor de los
Spanish
españoles.
fork.
That'd be funny. So yeah, we already dumped them off in Utah, Idaho, Arizona, Texas. You guys can have them. We're already starting to heal. 6 months ago, we finished the export. You guys can keep them, and yeah, we just go from there. So anyway, what are you up to before we go, man? Any other books on the horizon? Anything cool we're gonna get?
Oh yeah, so Riley and I are working on a short story for an anthology that's going to be really cool. I'll have to tell you guys about that when that gets further along. And then we're just finishing up book 4 and doing our voiceover recording for book 3.
Dude, that's cool, man. Are you going to be able to be full-time authors pretty soon? Like just dedicate yourself to the craft and no more feet pics?
We just had a couple months. we just had a couple of months that if every month was like that, would be good. So that is the hope. We're getting closer and closer. But yeah, got a lot of fun stuff going on over on this side of the Sierra Nevadas, I guess.
Yeah, dude. Exactly, man. So anyway, guys, it was fun hanging out with y'all. Unfortunately, boom. We actually, I wanted to go for an hour and a half this time, but we ended up going for 2 hours because I have so much fun when I'm talking with you, Brad. And it's American Primeval.
Dude, we went on a tangent with all of the, like, not just our reactions to American Primeval, but like, okay, what are we going to do about this? Because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of our misrepresentation in the media. We need to do something about it. So
yes,
that was a blast. That was a really fun conversation to have.
Yes, we had a solid moan, and now it was cathartic. and we feel good, and we will rise like a phoenix from the ashes. So anyway, guys, we still got some Veteran of the War in Heaven hats that are ready for sale in the merch store. If you guys want to pick them up there, make sure you go to wardradio.com and check those out. Also, we got a shirt. If you guys want to purchase a shirt, make sure you check that out as well. And as always, for this and more, please make sure that you guys check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna fly it to the moon. This supersonic is amazing. You're gonna feel my sonic boom. I'm flying higher and I'm never coming down. Look at me now.